I like to read verses 39 through 43. Verse 39. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads, and saying, Thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. Likewise, all the chief priests, mocking him with the scribes and elders, said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God. Let him deliver him now, if he will have him. For he said, I am the Son of God. I draw your attention to those two statements found in verse 40 and in verse 42. Look at them again as I draw your attention to them. Verse 40, if thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. And then look please at verse 42, if he be the King of Israel, let him come down from the cross. Now, let me begin by saying two things. Jesus was and is the Son of God. Secondly, if he had wanted to come down off of that cross, he could have. I want to substantiate that thought by taking you back to the events that transpired prior to the arrest of Jesus. Back in chapter 26, if you'll just go back one page there, we find Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. After praying for the third time, he comes and again he finds his disciples sleeping. And look please at chapter 26 and verse 46, because Jesus says, Rise, let us be going. Behold, he is at hand that doth betray me. Now, according to the Gospel of John, chapter 18, as soon as the disciples had gotten up and they were beginning to leave, Judas, and the Gospel of John says, a band of men showed up to arrest the Lord Jesus. Now, the Greek word that is translated band would have been the equivalent of 1/10 of a legion of soldiers. You may say, Pastor, that still doesn't help me. How many were there? How many make up a band? How many make up a legion? Well, a legion would have been 6,000 soldiers. And so a band, being 1/10 of a legion, would have been 600 soldiers. Now keep those numbers in your mind because I'm going to come back to them in just a moment. Judas is with them, and he identifies Jesus to the soldiers by giving him a kiss on the cheek. It was Dr. Oliver B. Green who said this, and I quote, Judas was the only one to kiss the door to heaven and then die and go to hell. That's an interesting thought. But Judas identifies Jesus. Then we find these words in John chapter 18, beginning in verse 4. Jesus, therefore, knowing all things that should come upon him, went forth and said unto them, Whom seek ye? Who are you looking for? They answered him, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus saith unto them, I am he. And Judas also, which betrayed him, stood with them. As soon then as he had said unto them, I am he, they went backward and fell to the ground. Now, realizing what was about to happen, John chapter 18 and verse 10 says that Peter pulled out his sword and began to swing it. Now, let me just say right here, it is a dangerous thing when a fisherman pretends to be a soldier. Because Peter began to swing his sword and he ends up cutting off the right ear of the high priest's servant whose name is Malchus. But now I want you to look at Matthew 26, verse 52 and 53. Then said Jesus unto him, that is unto Peter, Put up again thy sword into his place. For all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. But I draw your attention to verse 53. Thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? Now keep in mind the numbers that I gave to you a few minutes ago. A legion of soldiers would have been 6,000 soldiers. So 12 legions would have been 72,000 soldiers. Now get the picture. A band of them show up. 600 soldiers show up to arrest Jesus, and Peter gets out his sword and starts swinging it. And Jesus looks at Peter and says, Peter, if I wanted to, I could pray the Father to send 72,000 angels right now to my rescue. By the way, let me remind you that in 2 Kings chapter 19 and verse 35, one angel killed 185,000 soldiers. One angel did that. Can you imagine what 72,000 angels could have done that day? So let me say again, Jesus was and is the Son of God. And if he had wanted to come down off of that cross, he could have. But he didn't. He didn't. Instead of coming down from the cross, he stayed up on the cross. And there he suffered and he bled and he died upon that cross that stood up on Mount Calvary.